Welcome back to Out on That Line. It is week 30, and we are the world's first fully vaccinated music podcast. I'm Geoff, here with my co-host Alex. Alex, how we doing this week?
Geoff, we are 30, flirty, and thriving. It's finally here. What a momentous milestone.
Yes, we're going to be thriving this week. We got a couple of great things to talk about. We are going to do the Lake Street Dive new album called Obviously, because obviously we would do that album. Great band. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts on this one, because overall, I'm going to, spoiler alert, I'm going to give this one an overall positive review. We also have a little bit of controversy to talk about. If folks haven't heard, if you've been living under a rock, Lil Nas X released a new song and video called Montero, Call Me By Your Name. And it's not so much the song that's drawing the ire of some folks here. This video, this music video that he released with this song is quite something indeed.
Here's the thing. The video is an absolute stroke of genius because it's just weird, colorful, highly sexualized bullshit that attracts people to a song that is otherwise completely generic. Like the song kind of sucks. It's kind of bullshit. But the video, I mean, you have a giant snake man who goes down on him in a field and he's twerking on Satan and there's all kinds of shit happening. It's dripping with subtext, Geoff.
Yes, it is. I actually like the song. So that will, there are our roads shall part, I suppose. But, I think it's because I'm always down for just a catchy hip hop song like that. That'll always get me going. I love the song Cheerleader. If people are familiar with that one, if it's got a good beat to it, I'm in. And it's also interesting because the reason it's drawing so much, just hate from basically just the right wingers, and it's the imagery in the video, like you said, very sexualized, and it's focused on some very, homoerotic subjects. He's a gay artist. And it's a love song. Well, maybe not a love song, but and I think that's they're saying it's going to ruin our youth. It's going to ruin our kids. And it's well, you don't have to let them listen if you're that worried about it. But also, is a love song really that bad? No matter who it's to. Is that really a big problem for you?
I mean, also, what would make this better if he gave Jesus a rim job in a sex swing? I don't. The kids have to grow up sometime.
Yeah, and I mean, he kills Satan in the end. He does take his crown, take his horns and everything, but so I suppose Lucifer lives on, so to speak. But I mean, he does kill the devil in the video. So I don't know what all these Christians are so upset about. I don't get it.
It's just another video in a rich tradition of pop stars performing with satanic imagery, like Billie Eilish being sacrificed on a pentagram and bleeding out of the eyes, and why is Katy Perry in hell? It's all in good fun.
Yeah, just about every video that the Pretty Reckless has ever done.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah. And, it's just, I think because Lil Nas X is such a popular artist is why this controversy has happened. I don't remember there being very much controversy for Old Town Road, because that was just a, fun little ditty with Billy Ray Cyrus. But, this one where he gets into some, his actual, feelings and expressing more of who he is as a gay artist, I think that's where people are drawing the line, so to speak. And you're finding out a lot about people with the release of this video. They're kind of showing their ass here more than he did in the video.
Yeah, which is saying something. What's interesting is this is going to be the first time that rappers and Republicans are on the same side, because rap is such a notoriously homophobic genre. So I just feel it's going to be the crossover no one expected. Ted Cruz and fucking Tekashi 6ix9ine.
That'll be something.
Blow up whatever building that is.
I wonder if with all that happening, if we're going to get a snowball effect and Ted Cruz picks a rapper as his running mate in 2024, what a ticket that would be.
Can you imagine? Who would he pick?
Oh man. Now I should have thought about this, but I mean, I also think that who we pick, we're going to be calling out as a homophobic person. So that might be something we need to be careful about as well. So maybe we just got to use the word allegedly. and I
Sure.
think we'll be good. Yeah, we'll be good. So unfortunately, one of my favorite artists has some very questionable lyrics. So allegedly, DMX might be on the ticket with him.
I knew DMX was coming. I'm gonna go with a wild card, and not because I think he's a homophobe, but I think Ted Cruz, always looking to save the country some money, right? I think he's gonna pick a vice president who is also a bodyguard.
Okay.
And I think he's gonna pick Bone Crusher.
And they don't have to commission a new song. They don't have to pay anybody else. They can just use Never Scared.
Yeah, exactly. That's the campaign anthem. He's also going to use Bone Crusher as a bed.
Well, he could probably has room for more there.
Actually,
Bone Crusher was on that Celebrity Fit Club show, and I think he lost like 60 or 70 pounds.
He did. What a lovable individual.
Yeah. Do we want to put that evil on him to run with Ted Cruz?
I don't know. Maybe he'll do us all a solid and sit on him at Shoney's some night.
Whoops, I fell over.
Oops. Sorry. President Bone Crusher incoming.
Oh, man, that would be incredible. Like maybe one of the worst lyricists of all time. Like his music is so bad. People like I look back fondly on Never Scared and Get Up On It, the song he did with Chameleonaire. But my goodness, are those lyrics terrible. Like not particularly offensive or anything. He's just not very good at rapping.
No, it's awful. He's like that video of the high school kids rapping when the one kid accidentally drops the N-bomb in it.
Oh man, I used to love that. Was one of those OG YouTube videos back when it wasn't, when people weren't making like TikTok style videos where they were all planned out and everything. It was just people getting caught at their worst moments, basically.
You weren't sure if this was like two Russian guys fighting with tire irons for real, or was this staged? And no, it's real. Back when the internet was the Wild West, and you could just upload that to YouTube.
Oh yeah, E-Bombs World. The amount of things I saw on E-Bombs World that 13 and 14-year-old me should never have seen, at least until years later when I had some context for what I was watching.
Yeah, right.
But man, those videos, what it defined a generation.
Truly.
Yeah.
And I'm proud to be an American.
I remember one, it was a couple laying in bed. Don't worry, folks. It's not going to get risque here, but the guy keeps farting and he keeps going like, oh, incoming. And finally the dogs run away. And then finally the wife like throws the blanket off. And, I'm probably not explaining it that well, but as someone that thinks farts are always funny. In fact, one of my plans at my funeral is to put little fart machines under certain seats wherever the service is being held. And then giving one of you guys the control to figure out who's going to make all the fart noises in the middle. Yeah.
I think it's got to be me.
You have to, because you're the one that could keep a straight face, I think.
And I'm just going to make all the farts do "You Raise Me Up."
We'll get them recorded and pitch shifted to make sure that they have the right notes. Everybody's just crying, and then all of a sudden it sounds like Mitch. Mitch is singing out of his butt.
Oh my God. Yep. I accept the position, the honor.
Excellent. And by that time, hopefully it's a while from now, but who knows, the way this world's going, that people will forget that I ever talked about this in the podcast. When it happens, it's going to be a surprise for everyone.
Well, I love that we've got podcasts for podsterity.
Yes.
I have a question for you. What's going on with these blood shoes in Lil Nas X? These are not real Nikes, right?
So they are real Nikes, but Nike is not the ones producing them. So I think they're taking just regular black Air Max 97s, which classic, excellent shoe. If you're in the market for some good Nikes, like you can't go wrong with the 97s. I'm a Air Max 90 guy personally, but the 97s they're pretty choice. So what they did was along the bottom, the Air Max thing is they all have that bubble in the sole, because you're walking on air. They're quite comfortable. And they filled it with this red liquid and a single drop of human blood. Where they got this blood, I don't know where they got this blood. I don't know if blood is something you can just go down to the store and buy. Not sure. I don't know. Or if somebody at the company just donated it. Like they were
that's what I read is that people just went around the office being like, did everybody sign the birthday card and put blood in the vial?
Yeah. Okay. Here's the needle. Prick your finger. Let's go.
There you go. No, that's literally what they did. They joked about it. That's the one thing I read was employees gave their own blood, and it wasn't like we brought in a nurse to draw blood. They found a way to get their blood into the mixture. It's just.
I wonder if we're going to hear about any like infections that just ran rampant through and the company's called Mischief, so it's MSCHF.
Okay.
They also did a pair of Jesus shoes. They also took a pair of like white Air Max 97s, and I think they took like holy water and
I thought you were going to
injected
say
it
like
into the sole.
I thought you were going to say that like each of them came in the soul or something.
I don't know if they would. Well, maybe. I don't know. But probably not something they'd advertise. You know,
You're just playing basketball and your heel explodes and it just shoots out. I forgot which podcast I'm on. I'm not on the Skimbo Lounge. Sorry.
So they made 666 pairs of these shoes naturally. And they released them yesterday. So we're recording on Wednesday. So yesterday being Tuesday, the 29th, or the 30th, sorry. And I think they released them that day or maybe the day before. And so I actually got on to try to get one of these pairs of shoes.
Oh,
and
Geoff.
Let me just get through this here. So I always try to get if I see a release that's coming up, I'll try to get them, like the Ben and Jerry's dunks that they came out with, the chunky dunkies. Didn't get them, and I never ever get in for these sneaker releases ever. So like the sneakers that I have just gone to the Nike site or the Nike store and just bought. You know, I've never been able to like win those. Like I've won eBay auctions for baseball cards and stuff like that. So I get on there and I actually get them into my cart. Like I could buy these shoes, but they're $1,000.
Holy fuck,
1,000 shimoleons. Unbelievably expensive, and they're already reselling for like $3,000, I think, or something like that. So I could have made a tidy profit, but I'm a gambling man. I don't know if I'm like a month's rent gambling on a pair of shoes kind of gambling man, and I wish I had, but you know, hindsight's 20/20, I suppose.
Daddy needs a new pair of shoes, and I hope they're full of blood.
Yeah. I mean, those were never going to go onto my feet. I would never wear something that expensive. No way.
Well, that's good to see that's what's stopping you, is damaging the monetary value of them.
Yeah. Like I give a shit about there being blood in there. Who cares?
I've blood in my own shoes all the time.
Yeah, it's not mine. So who cares? Yeah. Yeah, what's the problem with that? So yeah, that was my story of almost profiting a few $1,000s on some devil shoes.
Well, I'm sorry that didn't work out, but hopefully we'll find you some Doc Martens with dog shit on the bottom or something. You can try to sell those.
Yeah, I could just go downtown Austin here. Maybe Red River Street. Someone will have some Doc Martens on down there for sure.
These are an NFT?
Oh, God. I don't understand that whatsoever. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't either. And Rory's talked to me about it for a collective 20 hours, and I just tuned it all out. He's usually pretty good at explaining things. So if he can't even explain that, then it's just unexplainable. I'm just never going to understand what those things are. Hey, that's all right. I guess we're just too stupid to understand money that's not actual money.
Yeah, that's why we do a podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
For real money.
Well, what do you say we get to the main event here?
Sure.
The Lake Street Dive album, obviously. So this one came out March 12th, I believe. So this one is pretty fresh. We had to get through a couple other ones, you know, Kings of Leon and Lana Del Rey, unfortunately. But I do like Lake Street Dive. I have listened to, I wouldn't say I've sat down and listened to a whole album by them, but I've probably heard a few dozen of their songs. I think they've got, like 5 or 6 albums? Something like that.
It depends on like what you count as an album and stuff like that, because there was like different labels and releases getting held up, and like what does Spotify consider versus what actually is canon. Okay. So that's TLDR. I don't really know.
Okay, excellent.
There you go.
All right. So like I said, I haven't listened to Lake Street Dive extensively. I have liked just about everything I've heard by them. You know, they just they got a lot of influences. They got a lot of things going well for them. And, this album, I felt like they were very heavy on like kind of R&B and soul and funk train. A little bit less of the kind of Americana that I think I'd heard in their previous stuff. But overall, I think this one was pretty good. I think the worst thing I could say about it is, it didn't go a ton of places.
Mm-hmm.
But lyrically, it was very interesting overall.
So, speaking as someone who has listened to albums all the way through of Lake Street Dive, I consider, if you really want to start at the beginning, Bad Self Portraits. That is a near perfect album. I was talking to Tanner about it today. That is as close to perfect as you can get without your eyes getting wet. I love that album. Side Pony is fun, but it's pretty much like half interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Half misses. And the last album, which I don't remember the name of, again, like it has Good Kisser, which I think is like one of the best songs they've ever done. It's such a, I'm going to do a singles video on it at some point. Good Kisser fucking rocks. All of that is to say, when I was really excited for this, I remember talking to you and being like, let's do Kings of Leon. We'll do like the shit sandwich. We'll do Kings of Leon. We'll do Lana Del Rey, and then we'll do Lake Street Dive. And unfortunately, this was not the palate cleanser I thought it was going to be after Lana. I was kind of disappointed with this.
Yeah. I thought you might be. I kind of had that feeling because I knew how much you would listen to them. And I was like, I don't think they did anything that groundbreaking with this album. So if you're very familiar, it might feel like a little bit of a, you're kind of on a plateau.
Yeah, well, and so we talked about with Kings of Leon, when do you change your sound versus when do you stick to the formula, right? And this is an evolution of the sound for Lake Street Dive because most of their influences were from like the 60s and Motown and big band and that kind of stuff. They combine a lot of influences. Those tight vocal harmonies are like very reminiscent of all the groups from the 60s. And that was all really fun and wonderful. And I enjoy what a throwback it is. And Rachel Price's voice is so well suited for that stuff. To then have them pivot into what I like to call Diet Wolfpack. Do you listen to Wolfpack?
Yes.
Yeah.
They are dynamic.
What a fucking insane collective of human beings.
Yeah. Yeah. Those videos are super fun to watch too. Like watching them perform live and just seeing how much they just groove and get into it. That's always a good time.
Yeah. Or watching like Fearless Flyers, which is another like offshoot of that same crew. Like these are really gifted technical musicians who have a very specific sound. And I, if you go back to like one of their oldest albums, there's this song Animal Spirits on it that has that like crazy synth that I think typified their early sound. And Lake Street Dive is just now doing that. Yeah. It's such a weird pivot for them, and for a band that sounds so good when they go live to tape and when they play with like live instruments. There's so much production on this, which was disappointing.
Yeah. And I think because I was coming into it without a ton of background on them and without a ton of, having listened to everything, albums all the way through. So, as far as like the evolution of their sound through their career, I wouldn't have had any basis for knowing about any of that. I've just kind of heard what I've heard. I wouldn't have been able to tell you what album it was off of or anything like that. It's just come up in playlists that have been put together for me, curated by Spotify and things like that. But I enjoyed the songs on this that I liked. And then the other ones I was just like, didn't really care for it. There was nothing that I actively was like, oh my God, I can't wait till this one's over or anything like that. None of it was offensive to me listening to it, but it was the ones I liked, I really, really liked. And the ones that didn't do it for me, I was just like, they could have probably cut about half the songs off of this one and had a really, really strong EP. But it's just, because they didn't really change a ton of what they did through the album. It was all, like you said, they're all very like technical, talented musicians. It all sounds very good, but it just doesn't seem to go anywhere a lot of times.
The circular logic of the album was kind of strange. It's another Women in Music Part 3 for me, where it's like, I am not opposed to Haim or what they stand for or their music, but only half of that album was interesting to me. Yeah. It's the same thing here. So it's less like anger and more frustration, because it's like, I don't expect much of Dave Grohl or Lana Del Rey,
Yeah.
but I had certain expectations for what a Lake Street Dive album should be, and this didn't fulfill them, and I guess that's on me, but that's how I feel.
Yeah, I mean, but that's why we're here. It's to
Right.
hash these things out, you know? So we might as well start. The first song is Hypotheticals. This one is just very kind of like soul, R&B, funk, and I feel like kind of gives you good introduction for the type of music that's going to be on the album in full. They have a great interlude into the from the verse into the interlude is really cool musically, but this one, neither of us picked this one as one of the more interesting cuts on the album. So we'll move right along to Hush Money, which was one that I picked. It's a song. So what I found interesting, I guess, is you expect a certain type of lyrics with this type of music, with this very kind of smooth, funky soul music. You expect more like love songs and all that kind of stuff, talking about how beautiful your partner is and things like that. And I felt like they do a good job on this album of not necessarily sticking to just that. They have the type of music that they'll use, but the lyrics, they'll just do anything and they'll make it work with that music. So this one's about, the powerful kind of getting what they want, and just getting away with it. And, Rachel Price, I don't know if she writes all the lyrics. They all have writing credits on everything. So I don't know who generally writes the lyrics, but it's the idea that, maybe we should make whatever they want to get cost a little more, and realize the kind of power that we have. And that's not necessarily a subject that you hear come up a lot in soul music. I'd be surprised if Silk Sonic had anything like this on their album when it comes out. It's just an interesting kind of juxtaposition from what you're used to hearing versus what they put on this album lyrically. And I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, and to be sure, this isn't a subject matter that comes up a lot in mainstream music. I mean, like, I guess, fuck you, pay me kind of sentiment. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's unique for what they're doing. But I had like a weird kind of reaction to the lyric subject matter because, like, musically it's great. And I applaud them for even doing it. But this comes with the caveat that one album can encompass many different points of view and many different themes and many different characters. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to take it as literally an endorsement from the singer or the artist or whatever. But when you juxtapose Hush Money with some of the other songs on this album, it's just kind of a weird sentiment to have these songs that are about, like, hey, activism and revolution and stuff like that. And then this one is like, I'll let you get away with all of your transgressions if you just give me money. So I'm not judging them on it. I just, like, had a hard time stomaching it because I was like, that's just kind of weird in the context of everything else that's on here.
Yes, thematically they were all over the place on this album. You had your love songs. You had this one, which was basically like extorting rich people so you look the other way. And then you have your just basically trying to speak truth to power kind of songs. It's just very much, definitely some, like, a lot of feminism in a few of the songs as well. So it's thematically, it's all over the place. And I think when you were expecting Lake Street Dive, I don't know if on their past albums, do they generally have kind of a theme they stick to? Or is it similar to this where they have a bunch of different subjects that musically it all fits a theme, but lyrically it's kind of jumps around?
I mean, yeah, they've dabbled with these kinds of themes throughout the entirety of their discography. I mean, they've got the love songs, they've got the more, like, abstract conceptual songs. But yeah, this is, I don't know. This was just really, I guess just, like, tone deaf in the context of the larger album. I don't know.
Yeah. And I think, when you put it that way, because I didn't really consider that, I just kind of realized that going from the first song into the second one, I was like, okay, they're not really going to stick to any themes here. So I didn't really consider one song going against another as far as the theme goes. But it does make sense. And when you have, I know you being more of a Lake Street Dive fan and expecting more out of this album than I did, I can see why that difference and why, those things not being very coherent together. I could see why that would make a difference. I could see that.
And it's just such a strange thing because if you look at, like, from Bad Self-Portraits, the song Bad Self-Portraits, I'm painting bad self-portraits of a lonely woman. It's
Mhm.
admitting a very like feminine vulnerability and doing something really interesting with it. Kind of like if you want to get into like real semiotic, up your own ass, prestigious academic interpretation of it. But it's like reclaiming that narrative of the brokenhearted woman and turning into something really creatively interesting. Doing a lot with a little, and then just to have this song again that's like, I see what you're doing, it's bullshit. I kept waiting for the twist in the end, which was like, I'll take your money and then I'll sell you out to the SEC.
Yeah.
Something like that. It just never came. And I don't know. I find that a bitter pill to swallow juxtaposed with what I know about the band and their values and their other song. And again, it doesn't endorse, like, they're not saying like this is something we'd actually do. It's an idea for a song. But it was a little jarring.
Yeah, I guess they just swept me away with the good music. The chorus, that's an absolute bop on this one.
Oh, yeah.
So let me get that hush money, and it's just because I got bills to pay. I mean, it's just a bop. And I guess that at surface level, really loved it. But when you're kind of getting into it more and how it compares to the other songs in the album, I could see, it takes a little of the shine off it for sure.
Yeah. Well, and I'm just picking a weird hill to die on because it's not even a bad song. And like, I don't necessarily have like a giant moral problem with it. It's just like, it created some philosophical distance for me because I can't just look at an album and be like, it's music. Like, it's 1,000 different things to me. It's an artistic statement. It's, all these other things. So it's a stupid fucking hill to die on when I like the song fine. But, that's just what I brought to it.
What are you going to do? So we're going to move through the next song, Same Old News. All I've got for a note on this one is just smooth.
Yeah.
Because it is very smooth. The next one, Being a Woman. This is one of the ones that we chose. And it's a very, I think this one fits in more with the theme of the other songs in the album. The same way that Hush Money kind of was a departure from that, I think Being a Woman fits a little better with the rest of them lyrically.
Mm-hmm. It does fit in better. And here's where I make a very frustrating and potentially contradictory statement. But the reason I picked this one is because I guess at the risk of ironically playing into, like, offering criticism that plays into exactly the idea that's being laid out in this song, where she's like, oh, anytime we speak our mind, it gets chalked up to our feelings. I'm not trying to do that. It's like that YouTube commenter that was like, oh, I think you guys are being sexist by saying that you don't feel like you can criticize Chaim's work because all they talk about is how any criticism can be chalked up to sexism. So it's the same thing here where I'm like, I have to, dance on the head of a pin here. But I think they've, again, done this subject matter way better, way more interesting, way more creatively in the past. One specific song that I'm thinking of. So first of all, to the people that haven't listened to this, it's a song about how difficult it is to be a woman. And it's the line, being a woman is a full-time job. She's equating it to a career as a woman, something that you can't take off at the end of the night and you don't put on at the beginning of the day. It just is you. You never clock out. Again, thematically, fine, great. I want to hear the female perspective, but you got to do more than they did with this song, because something like Spectacular Failure off of Side Pony is a great dig at men. I love it. Take all the fucking digs at men, but you got to make it creative. You got to bring something interesting to it. And this is just like, she doesn't really say what's difficult about being a woman. Like, the wage gap gets brought up at one point, and that's pretty much it. And like lip service to the idea of the glass ceiling. And I'm like, sorry if I have a hard time buying the glass ceiling thing while I'm listening to your album at my minimum wage job. Like, and again, that's not to make the argument like, well, what about men? But I just, again, it rings a little hollow being like, yeah, I can't progress any further. It's like, well, you guys have done very well as a group, and I understand, like, that doesn't absolve you of all adversity for the rest of your life. But since you've probably experienced a way different flavor of adversity than any of us on the ground or any woman on the ground is going to get to experience, Can you do something creative and interesting with it?
Yeah.
This just felt a little bit like pandering to me, which sucks because they can do better.
I think if they had, and I think you're right, I think it does come off a little bit as if she's speaking from someone else's perspective here. Because I think there's a lot of stuff that obviously she understands, but she's not working what we would consider like a 9-to-5 regular job, that kind of thing, so I'm sure, and not even just sure, it's proven time and again that there are instances in the music industry where women get treated completely different, get treated far worse than men do, from sexual advances that they don't want, to just bookings that they try to get that they don't because other male artists do, and it can be like kind of an old boys club. But I think it would be maybe a little better if she went from those perspectives, because then maybe there's something a little more personal that can come out in the lyrics and make it feel a little less generic, like she's just hitting some talking points. So yeah, I can see what you're saying on that one. I think again, musically, it's good. Musically, it's kind of slowed down a little bit. I do like the idea of, I think the thought of being a woman as a full-time job is a correct thought. It's a good idea, but I feel like they didn't really extract everything they could have out of that idea.
And to your point about musically, I'm only willing to go so far as it's fine because it's repetitive and it takes absolutely no risks, which I think is another detriment to this song, where it's like, this is like supposed to be your like I Am Woman Hear Me Roar for the album, and it's just like flatter than a plate of piss at midnight to me. And I know that probably, again, it's the curse of the Streisand effect. The more I go, I'm not a misogynist, the more people probably are like, oh yeah, that's just what a male chauvinist pig would say. But the point is, like, again, I go back to Spectacular Failure, and what was so brilliant about that song was it was relatable because it was talking about dumb dudes that we all know or we all are. And it set up these characters, Bobby and Jack, and just made them look so fucking dumb and cut men off at the knees and took them down a peg. And it was absolutely fucking glorious. And it was creative and it was funny and it was relatable, and the music fucks. So I know Lake Street Dive is capable of taking this theme and hitting a fucking home run. And this just felt like you told another artist you have to have a political song on your album. Didn't. It's something ain't right here.
Yeah, instead of a home run, they got just a single, an opposite field single for those baseball folks. It shows up well on the score sheet, but doesn't get the folks on their feet.
It doesn't get John Fogerty writing a song about it.
Yeah. So moving right along to Making Do, which is the next song on the album. This one is about global warming, pretty topical subject right now with President Biden just unveiling his infrastructure plan to try to deal with some of this stuff. So it really, I think a lot of artists have touched on this before. What I really enjoyed about this one is, again, the subject matter is not anything new. I think the lyrics are kind of clever. I think as far as, what you've said is Lake Street Dive at their best. I think they might be drawn a little more from that here on this song than they had on other ones. And it's not good news that they're giving, obviously, but they start out, and they say, to the next generation, Merry Christmas. You're working harder than ever now, and the coffee sucks. Colombia and Kenya got too damn hot, and now you're making do with what you've got. And that's the theme of this song. You're making do with what you've got as this world kind of gets worse and worse and worse as we go along. But I really liked this song musically. The call and response that they have in both verses is really great. It's kind of, that's what I enjoy about soul music and kind of that 60s music is it's almost like a conversation that the band is having with each other and letting you in on hearing it. That's kind of what I get from this one. And obviously I agree with everything they're saying about, that there's just, we need to do something about global warming, that things are, all of these crazy weather events, the fact that you can't get good coffee anymore, that, all of the poorest parts of the world are going to get decimated by this unless we do something about it. All that is cool, but you can read that in Newsweek. You can see that in documentaries on Netflix. Hearing a song where they're able to make it musically compelling, have some clever lyrics, it's just a kind of different way to present that information, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely one of the closest songs to their old sound, which again, however much that means to you, that means to you. But yeah, I enjoyed this song, and like you said, the call and response is great. The way it's just this like a staple of soul, a staple of Motown,
Mhm.
and they do the same thing. Like you talk about conversational to jump back a song, same old news. The new guy who joined the band, Akey Burmis, I believe is his name.
Mhm.
And he killed it on his vocal part. He forced Rachel Price to stretch and bring her A game, and a lot of it's almost dialogue in that song. It's very conversational. It's not
Mhm.
necessarily sticking to the time signature, and I really appreciate that. So Making Do has kind of a similar flavor, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it's like, again, these are great talking points. It's a great theme. It's a noble thing to expose. But in an album where you're trying to branch out and do different things musically, try to inject this at the same time, it's like you should whole ass one of these things. Don't just half ass both of them. It's just
Yeah.
is a little weak for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And we are moving on to one of your choices. Nobody's stopping you now. So this one I did not particularly care for. So I don't know if the reason you chose it was because you felt the same or if you are actually a fan of this one. So why don't you tell
No,
me?
yeah, this is one of the ones I liked more on the
Yeah.
album because it was an appropriate usage of Rachel Price's voice. And
Mhm.
I really like her voice a lot, but it has been utilized to far greater effect in all the old albums. Her voice
Mhm.
was perfect for that brassy kind of 60s girl group, very forward kind of
Yeah.
sound. I mean, she's got a great fucking voice, but on this album, it's kind of becoming just another voice because she's not, again, taking chances or doing a lot with it. She has one volume. She turns the knob up to 10 and just
Mhm.
park and bark and just goes. And it's like, you're leaving a lot of dynamism on the table. Like, play with this sound that you get when you're softer and you're not trying to show everybody what a good singer you are, because she's heading into Lana Del Rey territory where she like doesn't move her jaw,
Yeah.
and it gets a little fucking annoying. And this was a song that I think appropriately utilized her voice because it was this slowed down ballad where when it really kicks in, she's got to just blow the fucking doors off it. So if she's
Yeah.
just going to be at a 10 the entire time,
There's nowhere to
showcase
go.
that raw
Yeah.
power. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think there's something to be said. You know, it's great when someone is an incredible singer and has the pipes to to sing at a 10 and have it sound great. But if you're always bumping your head on the ceiling, you got nowhere to go. You know, and I think there's something to be said for dialing it back in spots that you have that extra room and you can add that oomph when you need it. And I think, like you said, and you're more obviously more attuned to listening to that sort of vocal style. You know, that's not something I'm going to really pay much attention to unless, because all the music I listen to, that's what they all do anyway. You know, I've listened to nothing but Meatloaf and Against Me and Bruce Springsteen my whole life, and that, you know, singing quietly is not what any of them are known for. You know, so it's like, for me, it's like this just sounded normal. But from somebody as a trained vocalist like you are, I can see where you pick those things out, and it does make sense. That if you can sing like that, you want to do it because obviously it still sounds good, but it takes away from maybe some of the interest that you're going to garner if it's all the same all the way through, instead of, trying to tell a little bit of a story, adding to the story with the kind of volume of your voice as well as what you're singing specifically to.
Yeah, I mean, you want to relate to people on an emotional level, so like take us through this beat by beat with your pretty voice, because you've got a great voice, Rachel Price.
Yes, she does have a great voice. That's one thing you can't really. That's one thing we're not going to be able to really say anything about on this album. You can't, certainly there's nothing negative we could say about it.
Yeah, fuck no.
She can really really sing.
That is for damn sure.
Yeah, yeah. And did you have anything else for Nobody's Stopping You Now?
No, I think that's it for me.
Okay, so the next song is one that when we were texting, we always kind of let each other know, which songs we're going to pick that we want to focus on, to give each other a chance to kind of look at those as well. Make sure we have something to say. Know that I know, I warned Alex that I'm going to absolutely fanboy about this one, because my goodness gracious, this song is a jam. I love this one.
Oh my God, the fucking chorus and the harmonies are straight hot lava.
Yeah.
It's like like really, really, really tight.
Yeah, and the horns, I mean, it's just there's everything in this song. I think, if they could have just replicated this throughout the entire album, I don't think there'd be a bad thing you could say about it at all. In any band that has the E Street Band and the Boss in their lyrics,
I knew it.
Is always going to be an A+ for me. So it's the idea of, the first verse, just to give you an idea, it's a love song. So yeah, we're like baseball and hot dogs again. It's opening day tomorrow as we record this, so I'm getting hyped. You're Ferris Bueller and I'm your day off. The E Street Band and the Boss. You're my happy clouds and I'm Bob Ross. Those are, you could not pick 4 lines that suit me better. Well, maybe not Ferris Bueller. It's a great movie, but it's not one of my favorites. But I mean, baseball and hot dogs, E Street Band and the Boss, happy clouds and I'm Bob Ross. Like, I have a Bob Ross t-shirt and a Bob Ross calendar going right now. I listen to Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band all the time. I watch nothing but baseball. I eat a lot of hot dogs. So, I mean, we're talking like these are speaking to me. So immediately I was in. Thankfully, the song is good, so I didn't have to be like, well, the lyrics are good, but the rest isn't that great. Everything just hit on all cylinders for me on this one.
Yeah, and I find songs that do incessant pop culture references to be a little corny, but it 100% works for this song.
Mm-hmm.
It's that kind of, again, we talk about connecting to the audience and making the emotion clear. That's what those serve to do in this song. You're just kind of expressing the giddiness. So what are you supposed to sit there and be like, I'm so in love, I'm going to shoot out of my fucking chair. You're going to sit down and be like, dearest Regina, like, no. You're going to throw out just all free associate with all the things that make you happy and the things that this person reminds you of. They make flavors more vibrant and they make colors brighter and music sounds even better. Like, that's great. Just express that. And they do that lyrically with the pop culture references. They do it with, again, that fire chorus and those tight harmonies. It's a super enjoyable song.
Yeah, and those horns. My good, I can't express enough how much those add to it. It's just so good. It's just so good. Yeah, it almost, I mean, I think hearing that song, talking about it now, and before you hopped on, I got my stuff set up early, so I was listening to a few of the songs again just to kind of refresh myself, and I was like, it's not as good as, when I listened to it in the car when I was driving earlier in the week. I was like, oh, this sounds great. This album is awesome. But then you read the lyrics and you listen to it and you're like, okay, maybe it didn't go as far as they should have or get as interesting as they could have. But I think when I heard this song, it just wiped away all the bad, baby. This was just my jam on this album.
Yeah, again, hard to say more, hard to say less. Like, it just kind of checked all the boxes and fired on all cylinders. Good for you, Lake Street Drive.
The next song, it's an unfortunate title for this one because I really found it to be lackluster, and that's Lackluster Love. One clever line, opposites attract, but I think I'll pass. And honestly, I think I'll pass on this song.
Yeah, I wrote, I don't hate the music by any stretch, but this feels like an ironically apt title.
Yeah, just, it's weird. Obviously, they didn't do that on purpose. They didn't name it that and then make a lackluster song, but, it is what it is. The universe works in mysterious ways, I suppose.
Frank Zappa would have done it.
Yeah, that man would you talk about putting a hat on a hat. That man, that's what he did.
He just wasn't afraid to suck. I love that. Again, I go back to that tweet. Never has anybody in the history of the world worked so hard at sucking at something like Frank Zappa.
Yeah. You try, what's it, 10,000 hours of practice, you'll be an expert at something?
Yeah.
He sucked a whole lot, and he became an expert.
and I fucking love him, and I love so much of his music, and so much of it is intentionally bad, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, I still have to do a deep dive into Frank Zappa, but I love Joe's Garage.
Oh yeah,
I think that's a great song. I think Hair and the Dog played that. I think me and Matt Reno put that one together one time.
As he puts it, well, I don't think we actually played the real song. We just kind of made something up. And I said,
we gotta get him on the podcast sometime.
Oh, fuck yeah. As soon as he's able to have people over to the compound, I will 100% get over there and get him and his baby on the show.
Oh man, well she'll have more to say than he does.
Yeah.
At least stuff that's more interesting to hear.
Yeah, she won't shit her pants and spit up on herself during it either.
Yeah, it's not a full weekend with Matt Reno unless he does that. Next song, Anymore. So this one gave me a sort of like early 90s R&B kind of vibe, I think, with just I don't know what you call that instrument. It's like a piano type instrument, but it's got a very specific name. I don't know what it is, but why don't you tell me a little bit about this song?
Well, I don't know what the name of that instrument is, unfortunately. But yeah, no, they went full on Marvin Gaye, sexual healing, smooth on this one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's got the right idea for me. It's a breakup song that, to quote the song, goes right up to the edge and never crosses the line. It could have been maudlin and pathetic and generic, but for me, it hit. And again, is an appropriate use of Rachel Price. However, I really would have liked to hear Achy Burmess do this one. Like, as well as he acquitted himself earlier in the album, you look at the structure of this song, I'm like, this is fucking tailor-made for him.
Yeah.
Maybe you ought to step back and let him throw a little smoothness on the grill.
I think that was I think that would have worked. That kind of lower register, add a little more bass to the song, I think would have been good. I did make a note that I know why you picked this one, Alex.
Oh, yeah?
It's because it's very smooth.
Mm-hmm.
You're really making an effort to bring me to the dark side. I get it. It's a good song. Can't say I hate it.
Yeah, there's nothing dark over here on this side, Jeff. It's all flamingos and sunsets and Tahitian breezes and in a sweaty glass.
Sweaty glass. That I know what you mean by sweaty glass, but on initial hearing, that sounds bad.
It sounds like a Frank Zappa song.
Yeah. No, his would be actual sweat on a glass.
That's true. It would just be the sound of him taking a glass of sweat and throwing it into an amplifier.
You said you wanted a sweaty glass.
Come on, people. This is the integrity of art.
But yeah, I did like Anymore. That one, I think it's a good suggestion for the Achy Burmess to do his version of that one, because I do think I don't know. I think just having somebody with a lower register would have really made this one cook. Not that obviously she's a great singer, like no taking anything away from her as a vocalist, but I think specifically on this one, because it does have those kind of Marvin Gaye, very 70s soul vibes, like it might have benefited from having somebody that fits that vocal characteristic a little better.
Yeah, go whole hog. You're going to do something that's like very out of character for the band and the band's sound, and you're fucking nailing it. So go the whole way and have somebody else sing the song and just like have it be this, like, we're just throwing it out there and you guys can throw it right back if you don't like it. But guess what? I'm holding on to it because I liked it.
Yeah, this was a good one. I think, as far as the ones that you picked on the album, this one was the one that I agreed with you on. The other two, I was like, because they were definitely slower, and I was like, I didn't really enjoy those all that much. But
well, and to be fair, I did use one of my picks on a song I wanted to criticize.
Yes.
That will ensure that I never get a date with a human woman ever again. Super.
Well, it's not like they'll listen anyway,
Yeah,
so I think you're safe. Then we have Feels Like the Last Time. This one, neither of us picked. I think for good reason. There's just not a lot here to talk about. I do love a good harmonica song. This one had some harmonica on it. That was cool. But other than that, not much here for me.
Nope, me either.
Nope. We do have the last song, and it is called Sarah. And it is, if you are the Sarah that they are referencing, it is unfortunate to be you. I'll tell you that. This song was a diss track, if you will.
And it's so interesting because when it starts, it's got those Beach Boy harmonies, not necessarily like as complex as something Brian Wilson would do, but it reminded me very much of that same kind of like, you don't know what direction this could spin off in. This could be a like rollicking jam, or this could very easily turn into something kind of sad and somber. I just really loved how they just let those tight harmonies do all the heavy lifting. It kind of strays into Imogene Heap territory for me at a certain
Oh
point.
God.
I'm like, what happened here? Which, but then I got into it because it was kind of underscoring the pathos of the song. Because you're right, it sucks to be Sarah, whoever the fuck Sarah is.
Yeah, I don't know if it's somebody specific. That would be something if it was somebody that was named Sarah, because they would absolutely know who they are. I mean, if you're like know that the members of Lake Street Dive enough for them to write a song about you, and then it's named after you, like you got to be able to put two and two together, unless you're the most naive person on the planet. I got to think it's a stand-in for someone else, but again, like you probably have to know it's about you if you listen to this. You know, I feel like it's very specific, and it's tough. That's tough.
Yeah, it's tougher than a $2 steak, man. Like it's yeah. But like musically, I the music, once again, it rises to meet the level of the subject matter, and it's stripped back, and it's got like a very end of a depressing musical kind of feel to it, where it's just not trying to do too much, and it's just kind of letting the literal group hold down the fort and kind of convey this. And I it's a weird choice for an album ender, but it's really one of the more interesting. And it's like, what, a minute long?
I think 2 minutes.
Is it? It's really
very
short.
Yeah, very short. It's like a Ramones song short.
Yeah, like as soon as I got into it, I'm like, oh, it's over?
Yeah.
That sucks.
I mean, it's a year of weird album enders. I feel like
Yeah.
so many of the albums we've talked about so far this year have had that kind of just open-ended question kind of ending to them. And I like it. You know, I don't know overall, because I don't think there was much of an overall theme on this one. So I don't know how much like this ending fits into that or anything like that. So I don't know how much like an open-ended ending really benefits an album like this, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You know, overall, you know, it's a good song, but you know, I do think it kind of jumped around a little bit on this whole album, you know, looking back on it and kind of taking it all in as a totality. It does jump around a lot, and I think to its detriment sometimes.
Ending with this song is a strange choice on an album full of strange, baffling choices. That's the best way I can think to describe it, because it's not shitty. There's not a song on here where I'm like, this is absolute dog shit.
Yeah.
But it's hits and misses, peaks and valleys for sure.
So what's your overall verdict on this one? I'm interested here. I feel like you're totally torn.
I am the literal and figurative Natalie Imbruglia over here. I'm going to say if you're a Lake Street Dive fan, you got to do it. If you're not, don't start with this one. Start with Bad Self-Portraits.
Okay. I'm going to say stream it. And I'm not, you know, and I'm a Lake Street Dive fan, you know, but not to the level that you are. Like I wouldn't be able, if I heard a song, I wouldn't be able to tell you what album it came from. You know, I'm going to say stream it just because I think there's enough on here that outweighs what I didn't like. You know, I think what they could have done is, you know, could have added harmonies in on every single song, because they're damn good at them. And I think that can only help when they do those right. You know, I think there's a couple songs that are just pretty weak for me on this one, but Know That I Know is enough of a jam that it helps carry through the whole thing for me. I mean, it's like there's enough of those good moments for me to make it worth it for the whole thing.
Yeah, it's just all I can say is, if I had never heard Lake Street Dive and someone was like, "Oh, their new album just came out and this is where I started," I wouldn't keep listening. And again, not because it's bad, but in a very competitive world where Lil Nas X is having sex with snakes, and you know, like the world moves pretty fast, and like you gotta hold on to people's attention. And again, on an album that was kind of slippery by design, like you can't really get comfortable and get your feet under you with this. I wouldn't necessarily go back for more. So I implore people, Bad Self-Portraits. It's the only one I own on vinyl. would start there.
Yeah, well, you heard it from, and I would go with Alex's opinion on this one, just because, having listened to it and having done a podcast with him for a little while now, the man is fair. If nothing else, when it comes to albums, he is fair. So if he's saying check that other one out, and I'm going to give it a shot, listen all the way through, not just random songs that pop up on made for you playlists on Spotify. So I'm going to give it a shot and see if that's something I really enjoy, because there was enough on this one that I was like, damn, that's really good, that I think if they've got even stronger albums or albums that have more of that good stuff on them, then I'm probably going to love it.
Well, Godspeed. Sailing Takes You Away.
Oh God.
See what I'm doing here?
Yeah, I saw that. I heard that.
That smooth episode is going to be so good when we finally get there.
Yeah, this abuse is all documented, though. You got to remember, this is in front of God and everybody. That this just constant smooth abuse is well documented on this podcast now.
No one can save you now, Jeff.
Well, I'm looking forward to that one, if only just to have an episode with Tanner that I get to actually be part of.
Oh, yeah. We talked about it. We're going to set up like a cool webcam situation in his den and just kind of ball out on his couch.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And I think,
good.
Speaking of that, that's something that we are in the process of trying to get together here, folks, is video versions of these podcasts. So if you go on our YouTube, make sure you subscribe when you're there. But you've seen our singles videos. We're going to be up to this week's is going to be 8. So by the time you listen to this on a Monday, we'll have 8 of them out. Is that correct? I think that's right.
Last week, I didn't do singles. Technically, I did the Lana video. So I want to say we're up to 7 for singles.
Okay. So this will be 7, but it'll be 8 total videos, right? Or I guess 9, because you did that Foo Fighters one as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So plenty of content on there already. Plus all of our regular episodes with some great artwork by Alex. So you can check those out. We're also working on, in the early stages of trying to do video versions of these podcasts. So you not only get the audio, but you get to watch us talk as well. So look out for that. As soon as we can figure out a real viable way to make it happen, because it's tougher than you think to find, not a lot of companies make programs that make that easy to do for some reason. So look out for that. Definitely keep checking us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Anchor. What else are we on? Google Play, right?
Yeah, Google Podcasts or whatever it is.
Google Podcasts, yes. Anywhere you get podcasts, you'll find us. You find us on Instagram at Out on That Line. You find us on Twitter at Out on That Line 1. You find us on Facebook, Out on That Line. And you find us basically whatever social media is. I'm trying to talk Alex into a TikTok, so I'm putting that out on the airwaves now. I guess he edits the episode, so he could very well just cut this out. But if you want to see Alex on TikTok, just let us know, because I think he'd kill it.
Make your voices heard. I'm on the fence.
Yeah. It's a very flimsy fence. I think we could push him over pretty easily with one other vote other than me. So I think let's hear it, folks. Yeah. He's a fair weather person, so let's get those fair winds blowing my way.
Yeah, very suggestible.
Other than that, is there anything else that you needed to plug this episode? I think we're right about an hour here. So
yeah, I think I've said enough this episode.
All right. Well, until next time.